think it's okay. Hey guys, I'm here with Samantha, a fellow INFJ. Samantha, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Samantha. Yes, I'm an INFJ, and I'm from Los Angeles, California. I am interested in minimalism and personal growth and plant-based eating and stuff. So that's like my main thing, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for having me.
Well, I mean, you already know this, but I actually am subscribed to your channel as well because,
Oh yeah, and I'm really grateful for that.
well, I'm glad because I think your channel's awesome and you guys should check it out. Because I want to do more minimalism um, videos in the future, and that kind of brings me to something that I wanted to talk about.
Yes.
I was watching your minimalism video, and I love the way you talk about minimalism. Um, and obviously, people can check out that video, but would you like to kind of talk about minimalism from your point of view? Just
Uh,
to
yes, definitely. Thank you very much. That means a lot to me because I'm really weird and always second guess my videos. But anyway, um, for me, minimalism is it's a way to maximize. It's funny because I feel like it brings abundance in your life, ironically, because when you get rid of the things that are just filler, you find the things that will actually uplift you instead of distracting you or weighing you down, literally and figuratively. And so when you get a clear picture, when you get rid of everything that you realize was just a distraction or was an empty item, you know what I mean? Then you start to get a clearer picture of what you really want. And when you get that clear picture, you're able to fill yourself with more of that thing, anything that brings you joy or is brings love or anything. Not just with. I found that at first it was just a way to declutter and save money and all that. And then over time, it started reducing my anxiety, and I was able to manage it because just looking at my physical space, when I have all this chaos, it's too much and it distracts my mind and I can't focus. And then at the same time, it kind of helped me see that I can minimize not just the physical objects I own, but the things in my mind. And from that, I can find better relationships and have a clearer picture of the people I want in my life. Anyway, I hope that made sense.
No, it definitely does. I think, I mean, you talk about this in your video that there's just kind of this unhealthy view of minimalism that it's kind of it kind of boxes you. Would you like to kind of talk about that?
Oh, yeah. So I think people get a little bit too obsessive with minimalism in the sense that it's something to achieve. I don't think it's something to. It's not like an accomplishment. I view it more of as a tool to use to help you gain clarity and to help you. Well, for one thing, I mean, just saving money too. I mean, it helps you. For me, I don't know about anyone else watching or whatever, but I used to fill myself up if I was having any issues depression or anxiety, it was easy to go to shopping because it was just a distraction and you get a high from it. You find something that's shiny and new, and then your mind can find that joy that you think is joy, but then after a while you see it and it's you don't really use it, and at the end of the day it was just something that cluttered your life, and then you had spent now how many dollars on this that you could have put into something that you actually really wanted or saving it for your future. And I'm sorry, I feel like I'm going on a tangent, but so I feel like a lot of people end up getting this thing that's and also self-righteous. They get self-righteous about the idea of minimalism, so it turns into this trend or this something that's, I can't think of the right word, but basically that, and they get too neurotic about it, and then they're too obsessive about it, and then that's kind of when it's at that point it's counterproductive. And it's, to me, minimalism isn't about a certain number of things you have in your home, a certain number. There's no number to it, and there's no right or wrong. It literally has to do with what you find value in. So if you find value in, I have like this mouse right now, for example, I don't know, but like if you find value in this object, then you give this object appreciation. And if you don't, then you say, okay, you know, you're grateful for it, and you say for what it's done for you at the time, but you get rid of it. And then from you kind of train yourself to, you kind of learn what it is what's worth it in your life. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I'm going to say that a lot. I say that a lot.
No,
I'll never know if people understand what I'm saying, so sorry.
it makes sense. It makes me think of, which I absolutely love this book, and I assume that you've read it, is The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. Have you read that?
Absolutely. That's what helped me like discover minimalism. So
yeah, it is interesting. Kind of, I got rid of a lot of stuff. I actually kind of am like a natural minimalist in a way. I did get rid of a lot of things, but I'm one of those people, I've never really been a shopping, like I've never really found too much joy in shopping and stuff. I just like to get rid of things, but I realized actually I almost was so extreme about it that I realized like way too late that there are certain things that actually did bring me joy, and I miss them. So, but yeah.
No regrets. I feel like, you know, now you know to, now you kind of learned to, you know, take a second and think about it before, you know, you just willy-nilly throw it out, you know. That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree. So I guess, I mean, this is just another topic that you discuss on your channel, but also I think it goes hand in hand with minimalism is personal growth.
Yeah.
Would you like to kind of talk about like your personal growth journey?
Yes. It's interesting to me because I have always had, okay, so growing up, I've always like had self-love, and I didn't really realize that people didn't. Like, I don't know. I think I have my mom to thank for that. She was always really all about just, you know, your best is always good enough, you know, so that I have her to thank for that. But I always had self-love, and I was actually really overweight. Like I pretty much probably almost obese when I was younger, all the way to like high school. And I still like love myself. And that does not mean I had like 100% like self-esteem, you know, best self-esteem or self-confidence. It just means that like in my heart of hearts, I knew I was like worthy of like greatness. Like that you mentioned that in your channel, and worthy of love. And I valued myself as a human being. So, and then I started seeing like other people and there would be people that I thought were like beautiful, like in my school, like girls that I thought were gorgeous, and I could just see, and they didn't outright tell me necessarily, but I could see, I don't know if that's the intuition part, but I would see like there was sadness, and I thought like, I couldn't understand why, because here I was like feeling like, oh, because it's not like I didn't think I had moments where I felt like I'm not pretty enough. I'm not, oh, I don't fit into this dress, you know, like I wish I did, you know, that kind of thing. Or I don't look good in this outfit. So that happened, of course, but like, I don't know, it's really weird. And so I knew then that I didn't want anyone to feel that way. And it kind of sucks because I feel like me saying this, people will start, I get insecure about saying that, which is funny, because I feel like people will start thinking, well, you don't understand if you've always loved yourself. Like, then that means you don't, how can you understand my perspective if you've never felt as low as I have? But that, like I said, that does not mean I didn't feel low. I certainly have had very low points where I question myself, and I do it now. Like, I always think like, yeah, I love myself, but am I really being a good person? Or is this like, am I like, every time I think, oh, this is part of, I'm just going tangents, but this is all part of it. So it's all related. But every time I think, oh, you're a great person, you know, you did this for someone, or you are smart, blah, blah, blah. Then this weird thing in my head started telling me like that I'm not a good person. It's like, if you think you're a good person, you're not actually a good person, because someone who's a good person won't actually be happy about being, like, they won't actually acknowledge themselves. which is stupid. I mean, that's dumb, but it's in my head. Like, it's like I'm not allowed to acknowledge the good in me. That's what my mind tells me. And I want to, because I'm still, this is all a process for me too. I'm still working on myself continuously. So it's not like I'm an expert or anything. But I want people to understand that, like, it's okay to feel good about yourself, and that self-love isn't the same thing as being egocentric. It's completely different. And that's still something that I'm trying to work on and shut my mind up. Like, whenever it tells me, like, no, if you start thinking you're a good person, clearly that's just your ego. Stop feeling good about yourself. Like, that doesn't mean, you know, oh yeah, you helped someone, so what? Like, you're still being conceited by thinking like that. I don't know why my mind does that, but it's really weird. It does. That's what it tells me. It's like I'm not allowed to do good and just feel good about it. Like, I have to, there's always has to be like this part of me that's self-deprecating. So in that way, I guess it's like, I guess you can love yourself and still feel those negative emotions, but you have to always go back to the love you have for yourself, and then train your mind to think otherwise, I guess. Yeah. That's a lot. Sorry, it's long-winded.
No, it's okay. I love long-winded explanation.
Okay.
I mean, I actually, so how do you personally find that you train yourself?
Okay. Really, it's self-talk. Like, a lot of it for me is self-talk. And one thing I'd like to do too is always have like a roster, even not like a literal, like, you know, you can write it down if you want, but I have like in the back of my mind, like, if you start like just like a handful of things that you think are good about yourself, and then you just remind yourself when you're feeling down, no, Samantha, like, yeah, you felt dumb at that moment, but at the end of the day, who cares? Like, that doesn't matter, because here are the things that you love about yourself, and here are the things that you, I mean, everybody says this. I know every self-help book says this, but I think it's true. There's power in talking to yourself about what you find, how you find, or I guess the positive aspects of yourself that you see. And I do believe that over time, see, this is a part that I get insecure about. So I feel like over time you will start to believe it. And the part that I'm secure about is that I really don't, I'm already getting like, plus like, a little anxious about mentioning it, but I really don't know if I'm going to help someone because by saying this, because I've never felt like self-hatred really to its core. I don't think I've ever felt that. And so I get insecure about someone thinking like, well, you don't know anything because you're, but that's the self-deprecation that goes on. So I have to tell myself, no, you can still bring value. And that brings a fresh perspective. I have to remember, like, so it's kind of just when you hear when you like start telling yourself bad things about yourself, then you kind of look and reassess it and think, okay, well, is this really, is it really bad what I'm saying, or how can I reframe this? Is there a way to rework this in my mind to make it positive? And if it is negative, like if you were just an asshole, sorry, I'm not allowed to curse.
Well, it's okay.
If you're an a-hole, or if you're mean to someone, I know you and Frank don't curse.
Oh, I've cursed on my channel. I mean, Frank doesn't really, but I do.
Okay. I'm okay.
Talk shit, whatever.
Okay. Well, so if someone's like being like mean or something, if you were being mean to someone, then yeah, of course, like you don't have to think that that's great. I'm not saying that, but then you can start to realize, no, well, here's what I'm happy about myself now is that I recognize that I was being not a great person, and I recognize that I can change this, and I'm going to work on it. And that will give you the confidence to, one, love yourself, and then number two, not be a shitty person. Like, so, and to realize that we all make mistakes, and that mistake doesn't have to define you. You can move forward. You can change it. Anyway.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry guys. I feel like Henry always wants to make an appearance in these videos.
I love it. I don't mind. I love animals, so.
Well, I obviously do too. But yeah, I mean, that's what's kind of wrong with society, is the fact that if you truly love yourself, it's like almost a bad thing for a lot of people. I don't think for people that are into personal growth and personal development, like, you know, people that kind of have gone there in their journey, I don't think they think of self-love as like this egotistical thing, because they realize that it's coming from a place of love. But for people that maybe have grown up in a negative mindset, or they've kind of had parents, unlike their own mom, who tell them that they're a piece of shit and they're going to never amount to anything, they're going to look at someone like you and be judgmental. But I think that's so, it's just, it's not right. Just because everybody has a different journey, you know, just because you haven't ever hated yourself doesn't mean that you can't bring just as much value to a conversation about self-love and loving yourself.
And like I said, there's still the self-deprecation. It's not like it's not like I'm just like, oh, I'm perfect, I'm amazing, I'm everything great. Like, it's not like that. There's still a lot of issues I work through, but in the core of it all, like, I know that I'm worth something, and I know that I deserve to love myself, and I deserve to be loved by others. So that's what I mean. So it's not like, oh yeah, me. You know, it's not like that at all. I don't think I can ever be like that, honestly. So,
well, I think that's very powerful, and I think that says a lot about yourself. I guess, yeah, like, I mean, I have had moments where I have hated myself, but it doesn't mean that you don't understand. Maybe you wouldn't know exactly what I'm going through, which you never know exactly what people are going through, because you're never inside someone's mind.
mm-hmm.
You're not inside someone's heart. You can only try to relate to someone and try to be there for them and be a positive influence on someone. So I think that's amazing. When did you figure out that you were an INFJ?
Okay, so high school, it's funny because high school we took the test when I was 15. And I was sophomore, I guess, in high school. And we took the test because, like, the teachers in my school were all, like, kind of the religion teachers, because I went to Catholic school, an all-girls Catholic high school, which is funny. But we were, like, in LA, so it was, like, hippy-dippy kind of. So, like, they were all about personal growth. So we did the INFJ, or no, the Myers-Briggs type indicator test. And I got, if I remember correctly, I got ENFJ, which is funny because I don't think I'm an ENFJ at all, but it's during that time period, I was very social, in the sense that I was hanging out with friends. Like, I was never like a drinker, partier girl, but I loved having deep conversations on the phone all night. I loved going to the park and just like talking with hot cocoa or something. Like, that was the kind of stuff, or going to like shows to see bands. That was a big thing. So to me, that was like, oh, I'm an extrovert. I'm going out, seeing people all the time. So I got ENFJ at that time. And then later on, around college, when I was like maybe 21, 22, I took it again. And then that's when I got INFJ, because at that point, like, I had moved away from, not moved away, but people have moved, because I still live in LA right now, but people have moved, or I lost connection. So my core group of friends were like a much smaller, and I wasn't going out as much. And I just was not as energetic as I was when I was 15. So that's when I scored INFJ. And I thought, when I saw that, I remember thinking that it made so much sense. So, because when I read the ENFJ when I was younger, I was like, oh, that's cool. You know, it wasn't like this like deep revelation, because it didn't feel quite right. Like, there's something that wasn't fitting. And then when I learned that I mistyped myself, I realized like that, how powerful it was, because it was like kind of like, that explains it. Okay, that explains it. Because I've always, well, that's how Myers-Briggs has started. And then that's how I realized I am now. And then I actually took the test again. Like, I took it 5 times. And honestly, other than the first time when I was ENFJ, I took it 5 times since, and it's always been the same thing, INFJ. Like, I feel like I'm INFJ through and through. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty common. I mean, I talk about mistyping a lot, and, you know, I think it's always good to question your type. I also first typed as ENFJ as well.
Interesting. Oh, I think I saw a video of you talking
Yeah,
about that.
so I feel like that's kind of a common mistyping for an INFJ or an ENFJ. I feel like both could type as one another because they are so similar.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say, like, now that you know that, now that you, like, it kind of, you had that aha moment of knowing that you were INFJ, looking backwards to your childhood, and this, I mean, you know, I ask questions like this a lot.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Say you were as a child.
Wait, can you repeat that?
Sorry.
I think I heard your dog spell, I think, or a collar.
No, okay, like so Henry and Flair are like, stop. Hey, they're so annoying. Okay.
They're cute. I like them.
No, I mean, I love them, but
yeah, no, I know.
How would you describe your childhood now that you, well, I mean, not even now that you know that you are an INFJ, but what are some things that you realized were kind of INFJ, or just kind of do like a little overview of your childhood?
Sure, no problem. So growing up, like, I was actually pretty quiet, and I was really well behaved growing up. And I know that's common for a lot of INFJs. And I didn't even cry when I was a baby, according to my mother. I barely made a peep. So there was that. And as I got older, I realized, I mean, I had, like, it was easy for me to make friends because when you're a kid, you know, there's no judgment. You just kind of chill with everyone's like cool with each other. Well, that's probably not true always, but I think, like, in most cases, and more often than not, when you're like 5, it's easier to be friends with children than when you turn, like, maybe when you get older in adolescence. But anyway, so when I was that age, like, it was easy to make friends, but I realized I was sort of an observer. Like, I sort of just like watched more than participate in like the playground. In class, I was always the one raising my hand, but when I was in the playground, I always like watched my friends talk about this or whatever, and I don't think I participated as much. And and I think part of that too is because I was always the one, like, left out. Like, there was always a part of me that felt left out, even though I was being engaged with. There was always a sense of not belonging, no matter what. And as I got older, and even to this day, there's always this feeling that I just don't quite fit. And it's not like people are bullying me or anything. It's not like people are like treating me like differently or anything. It's just that there's a disconnect, and there's always been that disconnect. And so that's sort of a big thing for myself and my other children. As far as my parents go, my mother was always someone who was very persuasive with people, very charming. I think she is actually, sorry, I have to write this down because it's hard for me to type my parents sometimes. I don't know why, because I know them so well, but when I was looking at it, I thought my mom was an ESFJ, and I think she is. And my father, I can't figure out exactly what he is, but, and the reason why is because I don't talk to him. Like, he was never the kind of person that was super affectionate, or my mom was the opposite, but he was never like super involved in my extracurriculars like my mom was. He just kind of let her take the reins in that department. And he just like would go to my school play because he was obligated to, you know? So he was never that kind of father. And I would be jealous of other little girls or other kids who had dads that would like go to school dance with them and would like pick him up, play with them. I mean, he did that a little bit, but there was always something missing in our relationship. And he was also very logical. So I would say he's like an ISTJ probably, but like to a fault. And So that relationship with my father is missing. And to this day, it's always, you don't have a conversation with him. I'm actually jealous, not jealous, but I'm like, it's cool that you have a good relationship with your father. I know you talked about that. You're able to talk to him more. And I wish I had that, because when you talk to my dad, it's hard to have a conversation with him. He's always very technical. It's just like, okay, so how are your studies? Why are you doing this? You know, why don't you be a lawyer? Why don't you be a doctor? And that sounds very stereotypical Asian, but it's just a case for him. I don't know what it is. And so I don't know that that's his type, because he doesn't allow me. He doesn't let me in. He doesn't really let anyone in. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And I wonder, I mean, I'm not saying that it is, but I wonder if it does have to do with the fact that, you know, his career, if that does play a role. Because I have noticed that depending on the culture, you know, especially men have even in like American culture or like Western culture,
Mm-hmm.
men are supposed to be like this stone cold, stone faced person that doesn't show emotions, that doesn't, you know, show weakness. And I think it's even more heightened. Well, not maybe like there are some Western cultures that are just as heightened in a different way, but I think it's even more heightened in Asian culture. And
Yeah, absolutely. And they don't recognize, I think that's changing, or at least in the Philippines it's changing. I can't speak for all Asian countries, but there wasn't a focus on on mental health. Like that's something that can be easily brushed off, and it's still stigmatized. I know it's stigmatized here, but more so in the Philippines. That's changing now with the millennials of the young people there now, because of the internet kind of helped spread the message. It's funny, the world's never been smaller, but it's a good thing and a bad thing. But yeah, so like that it's changing, and that's definitely a big reason. And he grew up poor. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this about him, but I guess I'm saying it. He grew up poor, so I feel like that's part of it too, is that he worked for everything he's ever gotten. Like he didn't have any help from anyone when he was 9. But dare I say this out loud? When he was 9, he was from the province, and which is the countryside in the Philippines. That's where he lived, and he would carry like buckets of water to neighbors' houses so they can pay him to fund him to go to school, to elementary school. And his parents didn't do that. He paid for his own school at like 9 years old. And when you're 9, or at least for me, when I was 9, I was not thinking about that whatsoever. Like I was just like, I go to school because my parents, you know, that's just how it is here, and I have to go to school. Like there were many times I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to do homework, but he wanted to, because that's the culture. It's weird because you want to be more than where you are, especially when you're in poverty, or I don't know. I mean, it's not like he was starving or anything, but definitely education was more of a commodity.
I mean, I feel like and you relate to this too, because we grew up in this American society where we have all these privileges, and I find that so interesting, especially people that live in countries that, or especially at the time when your father was younger, the Philippines was completely different, or
Yeah.
a lot different than what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy just how much we've evolved, but how much there's still the gap.
Mm-hmm.
I guess this kind of ties into, we talked about this before the interview, but would you kind of talk about what it was like growing up as an Asian American? Because
Yes.
I know that even though obviously you were born in the US, you've had very American experiences, it's different. And I think it's different for anybody that has like parents that were not born in the US.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I was lucky that I grew up here in Los Angeles, because it's such a melting pot, and I was never the only one. You know, I was always surrounded by other Asians, other people of other ethnicities, including white people. I did, however, go to a school, since I went to a private school, private Catholic school. all throughout my elementary to high school. When I was in elementary school, even more so, it was predominantly white. There were a lot of Asians for sure, but and a lot of Filipinos, Koreans, and other ethnicities. But there was definitely a significant amount of white people, and the teachers were mostly white, and the staff were like white, and like let's see, the people, like a lot of the people who, we didn't really have popular kids, but there were definitely more families that had more power, I guess you could say. They were the ones that kind of, like the people in the parent board or whatever, like they were white. And so I had this idea in my head that being white was like all white people. I used to think all the white people were rich. Like, oh, white people are just rich. That's just how it is. That's what you see when you're watching television. That's what you see in magazines. That's what you see at my school. They're just, white people are just rich. And like and you have a big house. And I used to think that my parents weren't rich. We had a house in West Hollywood, and it wasn't a big house. It was a small house, very, very, very modest. But like that wasn't enough to me, because I was thinking like, well, it doesn't look like the magazines, and that's what's normal for white people. So there was always this like feeling of almost like inferiority in a way, in some degree. That if you're white, you have these privileges, you have these luxuries. So that's not the case at all for every white household. I'm not saying that whatsoever. This is just what I experienced. That's what I saw growing up. Make sense? Like, I don't want to think, I know there's a lot of white people who have issues financially, and I know that. I'm not saying that, but that's what I saw. So, and especially because the television really kind of ingrained that in my head. Like when you watch like Full House, for example, it was like, oh, well, that's just how they live. Even like, I don't know if you saw like Married with Children growing up, or I just see it on the TV once in a while, like it'd be on, and I'd be like, wow, like those people were supposed to be poor, I guess, right? But they still had like a nice big house. Like in my opinion, they had like a 2-story house, and so that was like how I pictured white people. Even like Roseanne, like I think they were supposed to be poor too, or they were lower income, I guess. And even then, like I would see like, oh, they have a 2-story house. That's like, they're rich. So that's what's interesting. And then the other part too is like seeing the curriculum. Like when we're studying history, I didn't really see a lot of information about Filipinos at all. And so there was always a disconnect for me there. And then when you're reading about history, like about the Revolutionary War or the Civil War, and even like World War I and II, and I wouldn't relate. Like other kids would have like, oh, my grandpa did this, my grandpa did that, and during this war, and my family has these heirlooms from this time period, and I would always think like, well, this isn't really my history. So like I always felt like out of place in that kind of, like it was a weird identity thing. Like, and I don't think I really realized I was like, also, I mean, I knew I was American, like, but I didn't really like register. It didn't register in my head that no, I'm just as American as this person. Like I literally have a birth certificate that says I'm an American citizen. I was born here. It didn't register in my head. There was still like a divide. Like, okay, I'm Filipino and they're American. It wasn't until like I got older, maybe like 8th grade, and like when I started developing my mind more and stuff, like that I realized, no, I have the same privileges. I'm just as American, and it's. So that's when I started calling myself Filipino American, because before that I was just like, oh yeah, I'm American, but I'm Filipino. Like, does that make sense? Like there was still that weird disconnect and misplacement. Yeah, I'm gonna turn the light on. It's getting dark.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I talked about this with you before as well, but a good amount of my friends, maybe not the majority, but a high plurality of my friends. And it's not like I like seek out, Asian friends, but the plurality of my friends are Asian. And I guess because I was always kind of exposed to those cultures, and they're all different cultures. Like I have friends that are Korean, Japanese, Chinese, Filipino, like it's all over the place. And I saw kind of how they were struggling. And I mean, not like that they were struggling, but like I saw that it really wasn't the US, even though it is a melting pot, it's not really built, and this is controversial. I feel like it doesn't really favor minorities. And I think that's it's changing,
Mhm.
but it's still something that needs to change more. So
I agree. Like I said, seeing like looking for like an Asian doll was hard enough. So I would pick the closest, like dark hair, even if they didn't have the eyes, or so that kind of, even those kind of things. And I didn't think it was a big deal, really. I didn't realize how much it really impacted me until I grew up, until like probably I graduated high school. Honestly, I didn't really realize that how that did make an impact, how much that made an impact in my my life. Like not, and I think that's part of why I didn't feel like I completely belonged. That's not the whole reason, but that's part of why I didn't feel like I completely belonged. And there was this weird identity thing going on. And yeah, and it's like, even just like looking at like when girls do makeup, like white girls who do makeup. I mean, like I I love being who I am. Like there's nothing like that. But I just mean like I used to think like, wow, like it's so easy for them to apply their makeup. So something as simple as that, and how that wasn't as represented at the time. YouTube has changed that completely, thankfully. But yeah, so and not seeing myself on television, not me, but like seeing Asian people on television as much. I think it was like Lucy Liu was one of the first that I really noticed. And Charlie's Angels, but yeah, I know it's really controversial. So
no, I mean, I guess I think I talk about some controversial things on this
yeah,
channel. I don't really want to sugarcoat things.
no,
I'm gonna try. Like, I feel like it's good to deliver it in a nice way, but
mhm.
sometimes it's kind of good to just like harsh or be a little rigid. I mean, not rigid, but like be rough
Direct.
around
That's
the
right.
edges. Um,
I agree.
but I guess kind of getting off of that topic, but it kind of goes into that is how would you say that you changed between childhood and like becoming a teenager?
That's a good question, actually. I guess when I was a kid, I think I was able to be myself more when I was in high school. I think because I went to an all girls school, the pressure of like boys watching or being around was I kind of was taken away, and I was able to just like be, and I didn't have to worry about my appearance as much. And I don't really like thinking that way anyway, but there was still always that thing, like there was always that pressure still, and like I it's not like boys were being mean or anything. It was just there was still that kind of thought in the back of my mind. So that kind of took the pressure off, and I was just able to be me and just I don't know. That's a weird question. The transition from childhood to or to being a teenager, right? Or to being in high school. That's an interesting question. So I guess that's one thing, and there was also just learning to be more mature and becoming your own self, coming into yourself, I guess, or if that makes sense. Like just with normal development, I was able to. I think I always was a deep thinker, like even as a kid, but that was more fine tuned as I learned more, as I experienced more, getting older and stuff, and exploring even more controversial topics that I didn't really think about as a child. Really helped rear me to be who I am now, and like and facilitated in forming my own beliefs. So I mentioned that I went to Catholic school, and there was, Catholicism. I do think that there's a lot of value in going to at least my school. I'm not going to talk about all school, but the schools I went to, there was a lot of value in going to those schools because they did teach about being kind and helping the weak and the poor and all that stuff, because that's just in the Bible, and that's what you're supposed to do that. And so that was great, I think. And Sorry, trying to I'm getting like flustered a little bit, but
it's okay. It's okay. I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually, so I actually am Catholic. I've said this before, but yeah, so I can relate to you on certain levels.
I don't think I knew that. Okay. So then of course my parents, or my mother anyway, really, it kind of instilled that being kind to others and not judging and blah, blah, blah. So that was one good thing. But high school was good because, like, growing up was good because I was able to now kind of, because there's still some kind of indoctrination that happens just simply because you're not really thinking your own thoughts yet. It's not quite developed yet. So whatever your parents tell you, whatever your teachers tell you, that's what you're hearing and that's what you're thinking, right? So then I was able to develop my own mind and see things from my own perspective, my own opinion. So that's one big thing. That was a big transition for me. And then opening my mind to other possibilities and other people's ideologies and other people's beliefs. I started to be less judgmental because, like, when I was a kid, it was just like, oh well, Jesus, it's all about Jesus, and if you don't believe in this and in the Bible or whatever, then you're not a good person. I mean, it wasn't so direct like that, but there was always that like lingering kind of thought that would happen just because of like what we were taught in school. But I was able to like more open-minded to everyone else around me, and that now everyone's different, and that's okay. So that's the biggest difference, I think.
Well, I think that oh my gosh, stop! Ew, gross! He's looking at my ear. He loves looking at my ear. Yeah, it is interesting. I feel like there's kind of a stark contrast between people's childhoods and people's like teenagehood or like high school in general. And that's interesting that you kind of, I think everybody has this like weird journey, and it's interesting to hear everybody's the way they went about it.
Mm-hmm.
What did you study in college?
Actually, I studied fashion design, and the reason I did was because I've always been into art, and I've always been like artistically inclined. So I saw like the movie Parent Trap when I was a kid, like the one with Lindsay Lohan, and her mom was a fashion designer in it, and I saw her sketches, and I was like, that's what I want to do. So I had it in my mind that that's what I'm going to be doing, and then I realized that that's not quite what fashion design is. You're not just drawing dresses all the time. But for some reason I stuck through it and I did it, and I don't regret it because I got a lot of value and I learned a lot of things of like graphic design kind of stuff, which is going to help for what I want to do now. But if I had known then in high school what I know now about myself, I would have gone into psychology. But I'm not. But that's fine. Like, because everyone has like, that's just a journey that happened. That's the path that was led to. So, tripping on my words, sorry. But yeah. So for me, sorry, I'm getting distracted. Walking the room. What were they saying?
You were talking about how
right.
You should have gone back for psychology.
Oh yeah, if I had known then what I feel now, I would have done that. But so that's what I studied. I studied fashion design, and I don't know. I guess I just thought it'd be more drawing dresses and less trying to like look in the trends, which is really dumb. I should have known better, but and I honestly don't really like the fashion industry. For one thing, not into fast fashion anymore. I mean, I didn't really know what it was before, but I think we're opening our minds to that now. So that's one thing. I don't like fast fashion for environmental reasons and exploiting workers and stuff. And then the other reason too is that I think sometimes it gets really shallow. I mean, unless maybe you're doing couture, I can see how that's like art and stuff. But if you're just doing like design for a company that wants to sell like I don't know, prom dresses at Forever 21 or something, like, then it's just kind of a vapid culture, at least from what I've experienced from the people that I've encountered.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Very for profit.
Pumpkin's trying to start a fight with Henry. Okay, yeah, no, I agree. I think I try not to shop at like places like Forever 21. And I
Mhm.
think that, I mean, it really ties into the minimalism talk that we had earlier
Mhm.
is, you know, kind of valuing items and not just disposing of them and just like piling up just to buy things.
Yeah. And
So,
it's easy to get swayed too, at least um, from my experience. It's easy to get swayed, especially since YouTube blew up, like the YouTube fashion or beauty guru thing like started blowing up when I was around 21. And I was very impressionable at that age in regards to fashion, especially since I was going to school for that. Like seeing all these people and what they wear and the halls, and it was easy to get absorbed into that kind of mindset and that culture and fashion trends and comparison on Instagram. And I'm not about that. Like so, and that's what I think a lot of the fashion industry taps into that. And so I don't want to compromise my integrity and my beliefs, you know, to make profit. And I don't even enjoy it really. So what's the point? So
yeah, I
yeah.
agree. Um, this kind of, well, this ties into psychology. Um, so you have started a series where you're trying to kind of you're stopping breaking the stigma.
Yes. Oh, you watched that?
Oh, I watched it.
Okay.
You did ADHD, the first one.
Yes.
Um, so for people that haven't watched, which by the way, you guys, you should check out Samantha's
Oh,
channel.
I thank you. This makes me feel uncomfortable even though I'm not good at self-promotion. So
Well, okay, I'm gonna promote for you. So
thank
you guys should check her channel out. And I think you should subscribe because she has some very interesting videos. And also I think it's gonna be good for you, motivation to see, hey, like people have found your channel and but anyways, you guys should definitely check out her video that she did about getting rid of the stigma about ADHD. What is your goal for people again that haven't watched that video?
you.
What is your goal for this series?
So breaking the stigma for me is I have always been an advocate for like the underdogs and the little people because no one speaks out for them. You know, people who are in poverty right now and people with disabilities who are in social security are, especially now, gosh, not to get into politics, but they get such a bad rap when literally they're trying to survive. People who um, like immigrants who are trying to come to America, they're so stigmatized. Like, and yeah, okay, so maybe some of them are coming illegally. Yeah, okay, all right. So technically it's illegal, right? Because um, they're not citizens, whatever. But at the end of the day, they need to live. They need to be able to provide for their family and provide for themselves. And I just don't understand why. Like, it seems like humanitarianism has been removed in a lot of parts of America for some reason. I don't understand it. And they're not able to put themselves in that person's shoes who's struggling. And so what would you do if you were in that situation? And the same goes for ADHD. I know people who've had teachers who were just really cruel to them because they didn't understand what was in their head, what they were fighting against in their mental illness. Well, ADHD is not a mental illness. Sorry, that's not what I'm trying to say. But like what the struggles in their head because their brain works differently. But same for mental illness. Like for me, because I struggled from depression, anxiety, and I was really odd. At one point, I was at a show. I was seeing Ben Folds at the time. I don't know if you know who that is, but
I love Ben Folds.
yeah. Well, I was actually at a Ben Folds show. This is so weird. And I had this depression, some personal stuff going on in my life, and this depression and anxiety was just creeping up in me, and it was just building to a point where I couldn't function at that moment. And I literally laid down, and I'm a germaphobe, so this is big for me. I laid down, I went into a fetal position during the Ben Folds show, just like curled up in the middle of the floor. And my friends were like, "It's awkward. You don't know her." Yeah. And I'm like, and of course I look like a weirdo. Like, what am I doing there? Why am I crying in the middle, like in a fetal position in the middle of a Ben Folds show? And there's a crowd. This is like a lot of people. Like, this is a venue, so there are people obviously kind of like packed in there. And I just decided to just do that because I just couldn't. My mind wouldn't allow me to do anything else. That was the comfort. That was the only way I could feel comforted. And it didn't work that well. You know, there was still a crowd of people like over me, but it's just like I just kind of collapsed in my head, and then it was crippling. And that happens, like it's crippling. And I want people to understand that life can be crippling regardless of the reason. We all have our own struggles and they're all valid. And that's not, I'm not saying go ahead and be like mean to someone. I'm just saying that your feelings are valid. And I really believe that if someone understands that your feelings are valid, that just one person, even just one person, that can make a huge impact.
I agree.
Yeah, kind of passionate.
Henry, I'm pretty sure that is my neighbor. Is pulling up the trash can.
Oh, I can't hear anything. Just your dog. Okay.
But yeah, no, I agree with that. I think there's a lot of power with just one person being a change for it. It doesn't have to take like a million people. It can just be one person. Sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
So I'm actually looking at the comments right now.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if there's any questions yet. Yeah, there is a few.
Hit me with it.
If you want,
should I look at it? I can go on your
also page. Open up another tab if you want. I always mute the audio on the video.
Okay, well, how do I have to refresh your page? Oh, that's weird. Live now. That's me. That's so weird. I should mute this because I'll be hearing us twice. Okay, how do I it's me. I had to. Oh, I'm talking. I got to mute myself. Wait, what? I had to mute myself. That's really weird.
Yeah, I mute the video as well.
All right, let's see. What am I looking? Okay, so should I just scroll through it, I guess?
Yeah, I'm not seeing any, like, I mean, I am seeing a couple of questions, but I don't know how.
I don't sound INFJ, I think, if I'm reading that correctly.
Oh, someone said that?
I think so. Huh. I don't know. I feel like she doesn't sound INFJ. She sounds SF. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's always good to, like, think about, think about what your type, you know, I guess look into other types and stuff, but whatever, I mean, I don't know. For all I know, you are INFJ, and I relate to a lot of the stuff that you say. So it's kind of, I mean, people think weird things, like people, and it's not weird to think, you know, to think about people's types, because I question people's types as well. But yeah, it's interesting. And I think that it also depends. So Stephanie Douglas, hey Stephanie.
Oh, I love Stephanie.
I know,
she's such a sweetheart.
She says there are lots of ways that INFJ can sound, and that I think that's so true. Like there isn't a box.
No.
There isn't a box for any of the types. I mean, there's definitely, obviously there's a cognitive similarity, but behavioral things and nature and nurture can always change things. And that's why, you know, certain people can come off a different way. And do you feel comfortable telling people how old you are?
Oh yeah, I'm 29.
Yeah. So being 29, I mean, you've experienced a lot more than, you know, I'm not saying some of these people are older than you.
Oh, but, doesn't matter to me.
But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of maturity that comes, especially in your 20s. Things can transform. And also the fact being into personal growth and the things that you're into, I think it can make people seem like they're different. I don't know, but yeah.
Someone actually, no, I agree with you. And I also just to add on to what you're saying about how INFJs are all like different. I really don't like it when people kind of like judge you based on that. Right, initially, especially initially, like it's like, oh, okay, I automatically don't like this person, or I automatically I'm not gonna like this person. Just kind of like when someone thinks you're a type or you say you're a certain type, and automatically it's just like, well, clearly you're this, this, and this. If that were the case, then we would literally all be like, there'd be 16 people in the world that are all like each, not clones, but all like the same person. So I don't know. I just think it's so weird, and I don't like when people do that.
Well, I mean, again, I think there is. I mean, I definitely have questioned people. I questioned people this weekend in interviews, but it doesn't mean that I like think, oh, you're not this type because you do
Right.
this. I think it's always good, again, because people are mistyped. I mean, both of us have been mistyped before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, it makes me think of, did you ever watch The Fairly Odd Parents?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember the episode? I don't know if you watched this episode, but I think like Timmy was a blob,
Oh,
and
I do remember this.
yeah, it kind of reminds me of that. Like they were all like gray blobs, and they were kind of like everybody was the same, and then people were trying to find ways to be different, or like I forget if it was that or if you were different, you were like seen as bad. But
Uh-huh. Interesting.
I don't know.
I do remember that though. That does, yeah, that does seem to be like a similarity there. And also, just want to make it clear, I don't mind if people mistype me. That's fine. Like I understand that it's all someone's perspective or what they see in me or whatever. I just mean that like they're judging someone based on type. That's what I mean.
I agree. I agree.
Oh, somebody.
Oh, go
All
ahead.
right. Somebody asked me if I know what is it? Jungian psychology. I actually have heard of it, but I've never had the opportunity or just never been able to look into it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do you know what that is? Jungian psychology?
I think, well, it's pronounced Jungian because
Okay.
yeah, it's Carl Jung. So it's
Oh, Carl Jung. I still have to read
yeah,
his
I
work.
mean, I still need to read a lot about Carl Jung and his philosophies and stuff.
Yeah, I only heard of him because of Frank, actually. Otherwise I wouldn't have heard of him.
Yeah.
You.
That's why, like, there's just so much to typology. And actually, like, one day I want to really get into the history of typology and stuff. But, so actually, Stephanie did ask you, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah.
She asked you, like,
veganism. So I'm actually, just want to make this clear. I'm actually not vegan, and I'm a flexitarian, meaning I focus on plant-based foods. But if I'm in a situation where there's like animal products, I will eat it. If I'm like at a friend's party, like I will eat it, kind of thing. But when I eat from home, I primarily eat plant-based. That's just like what works for me. Just thought I'd put that out there. So that's why I share plant-based recipes on my channel, because that's what I cook most of the time, really. So, but I'm not vegan. As for anyway, Stephanie, I really like you. You're so sweet. But anyway, it's because I've connected with her before. But as far as zero waste goes, I learned about that just from minimalism. Like when you start getting into minimalism, you watch YouTube videos, and then there's like a whole list of like related videos, of course, and like zero waste was always in the list. So I click on it, and that's how I discovered it. And as far as that's okay, getting into veganism though, or getting into like plant-based eating, I learned that at school because I had like a couple teachers who were vegetarian and or vegan, and they promoted that in our class. So, or they talked about it. They talked about how animals or sentient and to respect them. So that's how I got into that, just to answer your question.
I mean, I think that's really interesting. I think in general it is. I think it's good to kind of. I don't think I would be able to ever be vegan or vegetarian completely,
Mm-hmm.
but I do see a lot of value in cutting back on animal products when you can. Um, I think that's really interesting, and it's really neat. Like you were saying with like makeup tutorials and other things that you kind of discovered um, via YouTube. There's so many things out there um, that you can find, just like how you were saying about zero waste and just things about minimalism. It's kind of people are really into minimalism right now,
Yeah,
and
it's huge.
that's interesting. Um, what would you say is your like life purpose?
Ooh. Life purpose. That's such a, that question always gets me, because I'm like, like to have just like one like concise direct answer is like, how do I do that? That's that question. Purpose, life's purpose. It's funny, but let's see. I think for me, it really is just, well, right now I'm starting through the YouTube channel. That's the way I know how to do it right now. But like just to help people feel accepted within their struggles. And if I can, yeah, put it to a point, that would be it.
Yeah. Um, what exactly like where do you see the direction of your YouTube channel going? Or what are some of the things that you really want to do that you haven't done on your channel yet?
So I have the minimalism stuff. I have a little bit of like personal growth stuff in there related to minimalism. And then I have the ADHD video, and a lot of it's plant-based and food, like ingredients and like or recipes, I guess. And the reason I'm doing that a lot, like I have more recipe videos, to be honest, is because number one, I like doing it, it's fun. But more than that, it's also because it's the easiest. It takes the most work to do that. It's most time consuming and most tedious to edit. But it's easier for me because I'm not sitting in front of a camera. And the reason I'm doing this is so I can practice too. I'm connecting, like it's easier because I'm talking to you, but like when I'm by myself in front of a camera, it's so awkward and I choke up my words. I end up like no one's there to feed off of my energy or like what I'm talking about. So I'm like the one who's holding all this, and I have to deliver, and I end up getting really nervous and get camera shy, and then I feel like I'm not really coherent when I talk. So I want to break free of that so I can talk and do what you do, essentially. Not what you do, obviously, not, yeah, but like my own, I guess, thing is trying to talk about my own experiences and how to help people and talk about maybe even more controversial topics, like people who are on disability and in poverty, and talk about how the stigma surrounding that. And I want to do more stigma videos. So if anyone has a stigma related to like mental health that you want me to cover, please reach out to me so I can look into it and see if that's something I'd be able to do. But anyway, like that's sort of what I want to do. More personal growth, more mental health stuff, more minimalism stuff, but still like doing the fun, like minimalist decor stuff and the plant-based eating. Because I do think they're all related. I think like body, mind, and soul and your space, like it all encompasses like how you live your life. So that's what I want the direction to. That's the direction I'm looking into going.
Well, I think that's amazing. I think it's cool that you want to like marry all of those things together because that's kind of I mean, not exactly the same things that you talked about, but like that's kind of the direction that I want to go with my channel is not just have like typology stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but kind of go. I mean, a lot of my kind of newer videos are kind of on personal growth and personal development in a way, but I want to go into different things, and I don't know, I want to be more creative and artistic in my videos
Mm-hmm.
because that's really like near and dear to my heart. And I think it's really awesome that you, like Stephanie said, you're laying the foundation for your channel. So
thank you. Yeah, I'm trying.
yeah. Well, I think you're doing a great job so far.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Really appreciate it. I'm a little worried that it's like not niche enough because they always talk about niche. So that's what I'm worried about. But
I think it's changing. I think YouTube is changing. It's, and I think that's a good thing. And it's sometimes hard for people to pick up, especially if you're not doing like a clickbaity video. But yeah. So Purple Runner said, "How do you stick to a vegan diet without suffering from malnutrition?" Again, she isn't vegan.
no.
So I don't think either of us can really answer that.
I don't know, but I know that there are a lot of unnatural vegan is amazing. She talks about veganism in a very scientific way and like how to make it doable. So if you are looking for that, look up. I'm not vegan, but I watch her channel just because I think she's awesome. But Unnatural Vegan is really good for that. So I think she could give you more information in her videos.
And I think actually there's a lot of stigma with veganism. Again, neither of us are vegan, but people think that vegans are like these like skinny, healthy people, and that's not always the case.
No.
You know, I've seen people that are overweight that are vegan. I've seen people that are, in really good shape. I've seen people that are like, you see people of all different shapes and sizes, and yeah,
I mean, like Oreos are vegan,
exactly.
You're not going to sustain yourself in that. So
Yeah.
Unnatural Vegan talks about the ways in which you can live a healthy vegan diet and in a realistic way. It's not some like grandiose like thing where like you got to just eat beans all day and like raw. And I think Freely the Banana Girl is one of those who like has this weird diet. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she does this really like drastic way of eating. But it's very, very possible with how Unnatural Vegan eats. And she makes it more relatable. So yeah, I really, really highly recommend her. I don't know her or anything. I just watch her videos. So she doesn't know I'm doing this or anything. She doesn't even know who I am. So
yeah, I mean, you never know. You never know. I think some people would be surprised. That's something I've learned about. Like, I mean, I don't assume that YouTubers know who I am either. I think if you think it's different when you have a smaller channel, but yeah, you.
Oh yeah, I have 70 people. 70 people, 0 in the YouTube world. But I'm grateful for every one of them and subscribe. But 70 people is like zilch.
Yeah, so you see, like, if people comment, you're seeing those people, so it's a bit different. But let's see. Okay, so I got Emily. Do you want to get better? Do you want to get better at editing as an artistic output, or what kind of art do you want to do? So editing, I'm very like, I've always loved art, drawing and painting, and
Me too.
yeah. So I mean, you said that you've always kind of been artistic as well.
Yeah.
I think what I mean by this is like, I have a very I've had this kind of reoccurring vision of like what I want the channel to look like in the future, but I want to do it justice, which means I can't just like upload videos. I do want to do more editing, and I don't want to like take away the message, or I want to keep it still raw, but just have a better setup, a better camera setup, better background, discuss more artistic things, like even do like art journals, like show people my art journals and like
cool. I'm excited for the direction you're gonna go.
Yeah, I mean, I want to tie everything together, so it's gonna be like, I don't know, I want to like just not have where it just seems really awkward kind of jumping around. I want it to kind of all, yeah. Anyways, so Indigo Yoshi asks, do you guys believe in astrology?
No, no, that's not true. I'm not going to say no outright. I personally have not looked into it enough to really say, but for a while I was kind of like insular in my thinking regarding like spirituality, because I think it's because of a lot of the problems I had with like the Catholic Church and Christianity and stuff growing up. And like now that so for a while I was kind of rebelling, I guess, against it when I was around like 17, 18, 19, 20, those years. But now that I'm older, I'm opening my mind more to like spirituality. So that's kind of how I feel astrology is more tied to spirituality in a way. Is that true or no? Because that's what I know as someone who is into astrology, who connects it in that kind of light. But I know it's also a science.
Yeah.
There's science to it. So I guess the short answer would be, do I believe in it? Maybe. And I still have to look into it. Do I think like it's interesting? Yes. And I'm really actually excited to explore that. And that's just a recent thing that I started looking into now, actually, just with this past year. Because prior to that, I was like, oh, that's baloney, which was really stupid and very ignorant thinking on my part. What about you?
I mean, it makes sense. Like, I think, well, I've talked about this a few times, but the astrology that's like talked about, especially in Western astrology, is just kind of the horoscopes, the daily horoscopes. A lot of that is just like BS.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more to it. Like, I think when you actually get into, you go past just like your sun sign, which is like the day you were born. If you go into like your chart and you find your ascendant or rising sign, your moon sign, you see where your Jupiter is, your like fill in the blank.
Yes.
That's a bit different. And I think there's actually a lot to be said, but I also don't live my life. You know, there's certain things that I may be like, this is interesting, but I don't live my life according to my chart.
That's what intrigued me, actually, learning about the chart and all that. Prior to that, it really was just like, I was really ignorant to it and just like, oh, horoscopes are dumb.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I agree. Yeah, so if anybody knows more about it, you know, let me know.
It's definitely interesting. I mean, it's actually something that is pretty near and dear to my heart because I don't ever remember not knowing about astrology, and I used to be that like crazy person. I would say up until the end of high school, like even elementary school, middle school, I was the person that knew all the stuff about astrology, and I would bring in this book that's like falling apart, and I would call it the Astrology Bible, which is kind of weird, but I would like show people the book and we just like, and I would just like guess people's signs and stuff. But yeah, I find it very interesting, but again, I don't live by it. So
still very cool though that you knew that stuff.
Yeah. Let's see. What who is someone that's like really impacted your life?
Someone that has impacted my life?
Yeah.
Like anyone?
Anybody. It doesn't have to be even someone you know, but like someone that has really left an impression on your life in maybe a positive way, let's say.
Oh gosh, if I have to answer this question, most impactful.
And it could be
other than my boyfriend, or my partner, my current, well, I've been with him for 7 years, but other than him, he's a huge one, actually. It's weird talking about him, saying that, because he's like, and he's like, just, hey, he's my boyfriend. But him definitely opened my mind to a lot of, opened my mind to what it's like to, that's what I'm looking for. I guess in another world, like in regards to like mental illness, because I've always had my own mental illness, and everyone else's looks different. You know, everybody else has their own way of dealing with things, and so learning to be more compassionate, like helping me be more compassionate. He's also really big, and he was like the first person, or one of the first people in my life that really got me into environmentalism. So I guess that kind of started with the zero waste thing, but it wasn't quite, there was no name for it. It's just he respected trees and like plants. Like he doesn't rip off leaves off trees. He thinks that's disrespectful to the tree, and I think that's really sweet. So that's like something that I appreciate. And it's weird to talk about him like this. He's just a very kind person. He's an INFJ too, by the way, which is interesting. I feel like I have nothing to say about him because I know him so well. It's kind of weird to like put it into words, but he's someone. And then there was also, oh, my friend Cara. Definitely her. So Cara Scanlon is the person I interviewed for my ADHD Breaking the Stigma video. She is that girl. I don't know if I should say her name because I don't know. I feel weird talking about people when they're not here, even though it's like positive stuff. So she's, especially to like the public, but she's an amazing person. And that video, you could see in how passionate she is about what she does. She has dyslexia and ADHD, and she has such like a good heart. And I don't really want to go into specifics because I want to respect her, but those would be two people I would say it's impacted my life. As far as like strangers go, or like maybe like a public figure or something, you know, Mother Teresa has always been, I know it sounds so cliche, but Mother Teresa has always been someone that was stuck in my head because I learned about her so often when I was a kid. But that to me, like her acts of service towards people in need was such an impact for me growing up, and it was a huge inspiration, and it's helped me become who I am today. So that's definitely someone I see as this really great role model, and such a strong woman, and it was really such a humble woman. Like everything was just about her act of service towards people in need, and I think that's amazing because I myself want to be that kind of person, but I still get moments where I'm super selfish, and I don't think there's anything wrong with being selfish sometimes, but there is still that part of me that gets impatient, that like gets kind of greedy maybe sometimes. Like I want all to myself. That just happens in my mind, and I want to be someone who can kind of shed that a bit if I could. I mean, I don't know if it's possible to do it completely because I'm a human being, but it seems like she was able to. Like she had like superpowers. But anyway, so I would say Mother Teresa, my friend Cara, and my partner. Well, I'm not going to say his name, even though I kind of said it, but my partner.
Well, I mean, I think it's always interesting to hear who inspires people, and I think it's, I mean, I can definitely understand why your boyfriend or your partner would be one of those people, and I can see that with your friend. She does seem like such an amazing person, and of course Mother Teresa was such an amazing individual.
What's that?
That your friend, oh sorry.
No, I didn't hear you. It's Mother Teresa. Yeah, she is. She's amazing.
Yeah. Let's see. Kind of going off of what you said about Mother Teresa and her acts, what are some things that you would want to do to give back to the world?
Well, I guess the YouTube channel is one small way I can start. But in the future, when I am just like a millionaire, if that ever happens, I would like to give back, I guess, in monetarily if I can, but even more than that, maybe even start a nonprofit. I don't know how plausible this is, to be honest, but just something like that, something that will enact like change in like a more direct way, as opposed to, because like I do believe that the YouTube channel does help enact change, but it's not direct, and it's not as like what's the word I'm looking for? like it's more like there's still like a slow progress. Sorry. There's still like a slow progress and reaching out to the world via YouTube channel. But if I can do something more direct, that would be great. And I think starting a nonprofit would be amazing. Giving back to charity. And I am so iffy about charity. Like, my problem is like, I do the research and I don't know what I can trust. Like, I'm really weird about it. So I'm like, is this really going to what's needed to go, you know, where I want to go? Like, or is there something going on, you know, behind scenes that I don't know about, that like someone else is profiting? Because I know I have heard horror stories about charities that have done that. So I don't know. So I'm really weird about charity. So if I can like do something that can reach the person directly, the person indirectly, that would be amazing. And I haven't quite figured out what that would be. And starting a nonprofit seems so like that's so big that I can't even see it. But I don't know. That's still something I shelf, or like I don't shelf it, but I put it in the back of my mind. That's still there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess yeah, I guess that.
Well, I don't think I mean, even though I guess to us, starting a nonprofit is a very lofty goal. I mean, that's something that, in a way, I aspire to as well. But I do think that it is possible. It's just like sometimes you kind of have to not think about the how, but you just think about like, you just go forward and just do what you can, and those things will kind of figure them out. I don't know what Henry's doing in the other room, but it does not sound good. Henry!
Oh,
Henry! Henry, come here!
you
What?
can go take care of him. Okay. Oh, there he is.
He's cleaning something up at the other room. So, Indigo Yoshi asked, "How do you guys protect your energy from being drained, or how do you guys draw boundaries in order to protect your energy?"
Boundaries specifically, like from like
I guess from
in
being
general, from what?
from your energy being drained.
Like from people or just in general?
I mean, I guess just in general, or it could be people, whichever one.
Okay. Well, I'll let you start because I'm gonna think about my answer.
Um, I mean, it's kind of an ongoing process with me. I actually, I made a video today kind of about being burnt out. So it's something that I struggle with constantly. Like, it's not something that I really feel like I have a grasp on. But, and it's also to do with the fact that I really don't have privacy right now. Living in the situation that I am right now, because we are moving, but the place we're moving to isn't finished. And we thought it was going to be finished in July. So that's hard. Typically, I kind of, go into a place of just kind of go into my room, or have like a safe spot where I can go. And I mean, even going to my car during work, on my lunch break, that's kind of a way to recharge my battery. I don't really have a good answer for that. What about you?
Probably like Netflix, to be honest. Like, that's like just easy. Like throw it on, you know, like after feeling really stressed and just putting on something that's like mind numbing. No, not really, but something that can still be interesting, but like not super involved. The Office would be an easy one to put on, you know. Seinfeld would be another easy one to put on. So like just stuff like that, like comedies. That's one thing. And I can't really read when I'm drained because it's like I have to focus. So I guess I know a lot of people read to relax, but that's not something I can do really. I mean, I can, but if I'm drained, I don't know that it might be take too much out of me to concentrate. I mean, I guess I don't have a great answer for that either. Literally, Netflix is an easy one. Yeah. And I'm getting privacy, like you mentioned. Privacy, just being by myself is helpful to recharge.
Um, Logan J just said, music helps me recharge. Music also helps me recharge as
That is
well.
true. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
it's hard, especially like when it's hard when you're in a situation when you're around a lot of people or even just in a conversation that drains you. That's hard to get out of sometimes, and like just kind of knowing when to say no to things and not always being a yes person. I know that I was a yes person the majority of my life. Um, so this kind of goes into it a little bit. James Bentley asked, when do you feel most in your element?
When I'm by myself, actually. When I'm in my home, it has to be like when I'm in whatever home that is, because I'm renting. But like my when I'm in my home and when I'm by myself, or not necessarily by myself, like, but like it's okay if my partner's here, but if I have guests over, I don't. Even if I'm home, it's just not the same. But yeah, being by myself, being in a safe place that I call mine, would be definitely the answer for that. Yeah.
I agree with that too. Um, I think I'm most myself when I am by myself.
Hmm.
And I mean, one of the things, and I've talked about this on my channel. I don't know how many people are gonna remember this, but I um, I like to listen to like personal development talks. So, for example, Napoleon Hill. I like listening to his talks on his his talks about his book Think and Grow Rich. I mean, these talks are so old. I forget when he made these talks, but it was a long time ago. And it's just something about having that in the background. I just feel recharged. I think also working on art,
Art.
singing too.
That's true. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I also am like you. I think with certain people, I can still feel in my element,
Hmm.
but typically, if I'm around too many people, it kind of, even though I enjoy it, it drains me at a certain point.
Hmm.
Um, so Lewis or Luis, I'm not sure again how to pronounce your name. When you get older, like 40, would you prefer a life in a big city or a small village?
A small village. Interesting. A small village, like a town. Town. Like I would definitely like to live in a smaller area. Right now, I'm like in the heart of LA. Like, uh, it's really weird to me that I grew up here. Actually, 'cause my dream would be to like live in like the countryside, like a little farmhouse. Honestly, that would be my dream, with like chickens running around and a lot of animals, and yeah, that would be amazing. That would be my dream. But like it, there's benefits to living in the city, but it's very draining. So I guess yeah, I would say the village. But I'm also really particular about my space, like aesthetics and everything. So it would have to be it would still have to be under my terms if I like buy a house, for example, or something. So yeah, I guess I hope that answers the question. A big city makes it easier to have like the things you want, but it's funny talking about minimalism and talking about things I want, but it does help me when my space is like how I want it, like my own, because it helps my mind. But I would lean towards smaller village because of how draining the city is and hustle. I'm not a hustle and bustle person. I'm not a multitasker, and I don't work well under pressure. So kind of weird that I grew up here. I love LA, but I don't know that this is not where I'd want to retire.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that you don't work well under pressure. I don't either.
Mhm.
Like, I
No.
hate when people are watching me do something. Like, that's something I really don't like. And I don't like I'm pretty self-sufficient, and if you tell me once, I'll remember, and it may not take me, like, it may not be, like, the first thing I do, but I'm going to remember, and I just hate when, like, there's a monkey on my back telling me, you know, that I need to do something. This kind of goes into it, but Purple Runner said, in what way is the city draining?
So I can't speak for all cities, but I'll speak on Los Angeles. So Los Angeles is huge for one thing. But there's always like a lot of things going on. Like I actually live not too far away from Hollywood, so you can only imagine. So it's a very touristy for one thing. So there's always a lot of people. So anywhere you go in Los Angeles, it's going to be crowded. I'm not going to say anywhere, but certainly a large portion of it. But if you want to go somewhere more quiet in LA, you're going to have to do a little bit of driving, and like that can be draining because of the traffic. So just like on the way to finding peace, you're already stressed. So it's like, that's one thing. And there's a lot of opportunities here, but you have to be like on it. You have to be a multitasker, and you have to work well under pressure. I'm not going to say have to, because there's a lot of people that have pretty lax jobs. There you go. But just from like a lot of the opportunities here, it's like go, go, go. You got to be a go-getter. I don't have that kind of mindset that's just like go, 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 and like entrepreneur this, and like you're just like hustling and bustling, and you're just, you know, I don't have that kind of mindset. So it gets to be very exhausting and draining, and helps. Well, it definitely triggers my anxiety. And I'm not someone who can process information as quickly. Like I need a bit of time. I can do good work, but I'm pretty slow at what I do. I'm just naturally a slow person. So if someone wants like a deadline that I can't manage, or I can't meet, then I'm just my mind's gonna like just collapse and explode.
Yeah.
Yeah, that a lot of LA's like that. Unless you're super rich, which
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. And there's a lot of homelessness here. So there's a lot of things that are about it that are depressing. There's also a lot of beautiful places, but like I said, that's for the privilege. And I'm happy that I'm able to experience some of that, but I'm still not like this millionaire, you know? So definitely. Also, there's a lot of people say this. I never really experienced it that much, I guess. But well, that's not true. Also, there's a lot of pressure to be like beautiful and like the Instagram lifestyle. There's a lot of that here. But I think a lot of people focus on that, because I also think there's a lot of people here that are very humble. So I just want to like clear that. There are a lot of people who are hard workers, or just like living their life like any normal human being. There's a lot of stigma surrounding LA regarding that, I think. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's interesting. I spent a little over 2 weeks in kind of the Malibu area, but I also went to LA this summer. And I mean, my experience, well, first of all, the drivers in LA are crazy. I mean, I'm used to it because I'm used to driving around in Atlanta, but it's just like, it's kind of something that I was like, I actually appreciated, because in Seattle, people were so I lived in Seattle for almost a year. People drove me nuts. They could not drive, and they were so
Wow, they drove you nuts.
Yeah, they drove me nuts
Yeah.
on the on the interstate, which you guys call freeway. I don't say freeway, I say interstate.
We say freeway.
I know, it's like a West Coast. Well, I guess maybe not just West Coast, but I say interstate or highway. I don't say freeway. But that was just kind of a.
That's funny.
Okay. I've had to remove a few people from this chat. Because there's some people that have said some interesting things they're not showing up anymore, but like, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting in like a sexual sense.
Oh. Ew.
Like about either of us. So.
Yeah, I see. Ugh, okay.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I guess that'll happen on the internet.
Yeah. So Peter Nathan said, "How do you guys cope with the noise? And I don't mean cars, etc. I mean the noise of people's emotions and speech." That's a really good question.
That is a good question. Well, honestly, I'm lucky because I don't really have a lot of friends, so that's one way to solve that problem. But if I'm like out in public, I have my headphones on a lot. You will get a lot of that here, especially with homeless people being. A lot of people who are homeless have mental illness, which is awful, and they're just left in the streets, and it's just a sad situation. So you will get a lot of people who are loud or like just kind of babbling, and sometimes they can be scary. But I guess I don't want to say I'm desensitized to it because I definitely still like have empathy, but there's a point where that's how it is, and you're walking and that's how it is, and it's like you cannot let it just affect you any further. It's just like impossible to let it affect you constantly, because then you would be dead. So I suppose I just got kind of used to that. I think that's what, I don't know if that's what you mean by the question, but for that's something I just gotten used to in terms of like strangers and stuff in the street. But like as far as the people I know in my life, I don't really surround myself with people who are very like aggressive, I guess. Like for the most part, most of the people I know are actually, my closest friends are actually INFJ. The people in my life that I'm closest to, other than my family, are they're INFJs. So there's still like a calm about it, and just generally like I wouldn't be with someone who is super. I wouldn't be friends with someone who's really volatile, I guess. Anyway, I don't know if that's what you meant by the question, but yeah, that answers it.
No, I think it does answer it, and I mean I think it can be answered in different ways. Like, sorry, I'm about to sneeze. I'm allergic to cats and kind of, I mean, a little bit allergic to dogs, but mostly cats.
But you still love them, and you have.
Yeah, I have 2 cats. I'm a crazy person.
I'm a cat girl myself, so.
Yeah, but yeah, I think you answered that really well. And again, people can answer it differently, but I don't know how I would actually answer that. I think with noise or just like people's emotions and speech, like I used to really, before I knew that I was an INFJ, like before like that resonated with me and I was able to realize that, you know, hey, I am different, like there's a reason why I'm different. I did kind of see, like I would go into a room and I would feel like people's emotions, whether it was good, bad, negative, positive, and that would affect me. And actually, I guess kind of realizing that aspect about myself, I am more aware of it. I still get affected by it, but I just have ways of coping with it, and it's hard for me to explain in words. James Bentley asked, "Do you like coffee better hot or cold?"
I'm more of a tea drinker, but if I were to drink coffee, I like it. It depends on the weather. It gets so hot here in LA in the summertime that you really can't, even if you want a hot drink, it's just not going to happen. I think I prefer it hot though. Yeah, if I had to give an answer, I'd prefer it hot.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, than my nose, but yeah, I think I'm the same way. I mean, it's a bit different because I'm in South Carolina and we have.
Oh, you are?
Yes, I live in South Carolina right now.
Oh, I thought you were in like Washington.
Yeah, I was in Washington and then I moved. I actually drove across the country. So I drove This is really okay. You'll be able to relate to this even more so because you live in California, so you know how crazy this is.
Okay.
I drove from Washington. So I drove from Seattle, Washington to Malibu, California in one day.
Oh, in one day?
Yeah, like 18 hours.
Oh, wow. That's exhausting.
It was not a good idea. It wasn't a good idea. I had the two cats in the car and it was just.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah.
How did you manage that?
Yeah, I was hallucinating towards the end of that journey. Like I was good up until like hour 16, hour 7, maybe 16 and a half, 17. But that last hour, an hour and a half, I like was seeing things in the sky, and it was probably one of the most dangerous driving experiences I've ever had. Yeah, but yeah, no, I drove across country with the cats from, I mean, some people already know this. I'm going to make a video about Seattle, but I drove from Charleston, South Carolina, well, Georgia to Charleston, South Carolina, with my mom. So I went to pick up my mom and I was with my two cats. And then we went from Charleston on the northern half of the US to Seattle. And then on my way back, moving back from Seattle, I went down to Malibu and I stayed in Malibu for like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. And then I drove from Malibu to Greenville, South Carolina, where I am right now.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Wow. That's crazy that you did that.
So I don't know why that was brought up, but I don't know why did I bring that up?
Why it was related somehow.
But yeah, anyways, yeah, that was an interesting thing. Oh, the Four Seasons. Like we have
right.
So coffee and stuff. So I used to work at I've actually worked at a tea place. I used to work at a bubble tea place. And I used to work for Starbucks for almost 3 years. So I have like both tea and coffee, but I've had tea more in my life than I've had coffee. So I grew up drinking tea because my Nana's British. And I didn't actually drink coffee until college. I had one latte before that, and I like went really high. I was like really hyper my senior year. But yeah, like I had one like vanilla latte, I remember. But yeah, so I actually prefer tea as well. But because we have the Four Seasons, I do like coffee as well, and I like it different ways too.
There is something comforting to coffee, I will say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the smell of coffee. And I mean, I like the smell of tea as well, but.
Speaking of Starbucks, I actually worked there. My first job was Starbucks when I was 16.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was dumb and I got fired. Well, no. Yeah, because I wore nail polish and I wasn't supposed to. And I didn't really realize it in the rules. And then what else happened during Starbucks? Oh, I guess I miscounted like when I was supposed in the register. Like I had like, yeah, there was like money that I didn't give the right amount of, or I gave more change than I needed to, because when I'm working under pressure, I cannot for the life of me count. You know, I just can't. Like, and that's what happens at Starbucks. You know, you're under pressure. At least the one in Los Angeles, the one I worked at, was super busy all the time because it was like in West Hollywood. I don't know if you guys know anything about LA, but it was in a very like populated area. So yeah, and also I couldn't memorize the drinks. I just can't memorize certain things when in that short amount of time. So I commend anybody who's a barista. That's crazy to me.
Well, being 16, I mean, it was a whole different. I feel like it's a whole different experience because I was like 20. I think I was 21 or 22 when I started at Starbucks. So it was.
Oh, wait. I want to say something. I wasn't fired. The manager told me that I was let go, but I would definitely be rehired again. And I never applied again. And I don't know, they probably wouldn't have rehired me, but I wasn't technically fired. Like,
well, yeah. I think they fired you over those situations. That doesn't make sense. I mean, Starbucks has changed a lot, especially like in that timeline. Even when I was working there, it's changed a lot, and I yeah, I couldn't even imagine like 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, like what Starbucks was probably like to work for.
Mhm.
So
That was 2004, 2005, I think.
oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah, 16-year-old Samantha.
Um, oh, this is an interesting question of purple runner. Um, did you experience sleep paralysis? Why can't I say that? That's so weird. Okay, go ahead.
No, I never experienced sleep paralysis, but I watched that Netflix documentary on it. I was so sure I was going to that night. I don't know if you guys saw that documentary on. I think it was more like hyped up for horror reasons. Like it was more of a horror documentary, but I'm a big horror fan, which is a lot of people are surprised by that. But
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
that's interesting. I actually, so this is kind of, I mean, sorry to interrupt.
No, I never, just like never had sleep paralysis, but yeah.
Yeah.
You're,
Well, no, I mean, I don't know if I have either. But as far as like the horror thing
yeah.
goes, I was actually, so for people, and I don't know if Frank is watching this right now. He did say that he was going to watch the live stream. But I don't know if he's just like silent in the
Oh, really?
watching.
I Frank's videos were like really amazing. Oh, now I'm talking about Frank. All right, I'll compliment him later. But
Well, I was talking to him earlier on the phone because we talk to each other every day in the morning before like work. And I was actually talking about when I was a child, I was like so obsessed. Like all the only books that I would read basically were like ghost story books or like creepy books. And like my dad actually used to have like my dad, I don't even know how he would come up with these stories, but he came up with the most creative, like very like creepy stories that he would just tell us randomly. And I loved that kind of stuff. So I can relate to that.
that is so funny that you say that, because when I was a kid, I was all about horror, like Stephen King, everything, and all of that, and like those scary stories tell in the dark books. I was obsessed with those. And the funny thing, when I was a kid, my mom was a big horror fan, which is so funny to me. But we would watch horror movies together, and when she this is actually written in my 50 facts about me video that I want to do, but I'll just say it now. Like they would let me pick like one movie, like two movies, like at Blockbuster. It wasn't Blockbuster, but like back when movie rentals were around. And she'd let me pick two movies, and I'd always pick like a kids movie, like Never Ending Story, was one of them, and then a horror movie. And I'm not, or any movie I wanted, but I always made sure to pick a horror movie when I was a kid. So I just think it's kind of funny that like there's a little bit of overlap with how we liked horror things as kids.
Yeah, no, I think that's really interesting actually.
Yeah.
Have you ever like I don't really consider this well, it is a horror film, but I think it's actually about depression, more so. Have you ever seen Babadook?
Yes.
Yeah, that's such a powerful, I mean,
very relatable, because that's what it feels like sometimes, like the big depression monster.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was like there were parts of that movie that made me very uncomfortable, not because it was scary, but because like I can feel, even the acting was amazing, but
Oh, yeah.
I can feel like just the pain as I watched it. So that was more uncomfortable to me than watching like something gory, you know? So yeah, yep, definitely powerful.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. The only part, which is kind of a spoiler. Well, I'm not going to say exactly what happened. The only part that I'm like, I really was like, oh, this sucks, is the dog part of the movie. you remember that?
I don't remember the dog part. I haven't watched it in like since it came out.
Yeah.
I
Well,
should watch it again though.
basically there was a dog and then there wasn't a dog.
Oh, I hate those. Those are the parts I always hate in movies.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was kind of.
Okay, that's I'm ringing a bell now. I have been meaning to rewatch that movie for a while. Just
Yeah.
haven't gotten around to it.
Oh, wow. Indigo Yoshi, you're coming out with some really good questions on this. How do you guys deal with people that try to take advantage of you?
Oh crap. I've learned to have a little bit of a thicker skin than I did. So, and I've learned to say no. So being able to say no that definitely helps. If I can sense it, and I'm usually pretty good at sensing it. The weird thing is, even when I was in the past, when there were moments that I felt like it was happening, I always gave people the benefit of the doubt, and I should have gone with my gut instinct, but I didn't. So, and now I've learned to go with that gut instinct, and to remove myself from any situation involving that. The moment that I see like a red flag, or maybe not the moment I see a red flag, but I will be more conscientious the moment that I see a red flag. I would be aware of it, and then if more red flags arise, then I'll know to remove myself. So that's one way. That's how I cope with it.
Yeah, I think I think really that's kind of the best you can do sometimes because, yeah, um, yeah, I think that's really good advice for dealing with people like that. Sorry.
I'm gonna close the window because I don't like that it's like dark and wide open. It's like weird to me.
Yeah.
I'll just like kind of take you guys here for a second.
Oh yeah, that is really creepy.
Yeah, I don't like it. Are you talking about the window?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like that when it's like really when it's dark and it's wide open like that. Okay.
Little Henry.
All right. Where were we?
We were just talking about how to deal with people that take advantage of you.
Taking advantage, yeah.
Let's see. I have like a lot of questions, but it's hard to think about. Let me try to think about some of the questions that I was thinking about earlier.
Yeah, don't take your time. I freed up my time for this, so however long or as short as you want. Well, how long have we been talking for? I don't even know.
I don't know. I know that my mom. I probably will have to go shortly because my mom's coming back from being out of town, and yeah. But let's see.
Oh wow, I think it's been 2 hours. Holy moly, that's crazy. Okay, well I'll let you say whatever.
Wait. I think my mom. Let me make sure that she's not coming back because if she does come back, I do have to end this. But
no worries.
she said she was gonna come home around 9. Sorry. This is okay. I don't know if that's her car. I don't think that's her car. What's that? No. Okay. I think we're good. But if she does come back, then I will have to end it like
All right.
ASAP.
Sounds good.
Oh, especially because Henry made a mess. And anyways, so what do you talk about like that? You have a lot of INFJ friends, and you feel comfortable with people that associate with that. What kind of do you know any other types that you have found that you really get along with?
I get along with. My sister, I can't say this for sure, but if I have to guess, she is an IS. Sorry, what is she? I'm trying to think of what she. I'm so horrible at remembering the functions, just so you know. Like ISF, I think she's an ISFJ, my sister. So I would say ISFJs I get along with because they're still like really sensitive and kind and understanding. Like they can still understand like, well, I'm not going to say like as if like other types can't, but I mean they're good at understanding like cognitively, I guess I could say. So like if I'm trying to talk to my sister like on an intellectual level, she'll respond well. And if I need her to understand something like in a more like with more empathy, she'll respond well to that as well. So I think they're similar to us in a lot of ways.
Yeah, they are because their second and their third functions are the same.
Mm-hmm.
So they have extroverted feelings second, and their tertiary third function is introverted thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So they do share that similarity. And yeah, they can appear similar. Also, okay, Purple Runner, it's not 7 where either of us are. Right now, it's 6:17 where she is, and it's 9:17 where I am because I am in South Carolina.
Okay.
I don't know why. I don't know why. Let's see. So he also asked the question, Purple Runner asked the question, what fills you with enthusiasm and excitement? I think that's a great question.
That is a question. I feel like I heard that question from Jesus. So I think somebody asked him that too. If that wasn't you, I don't. Right? If I remember correctly, Jesus. That was yesterday, right? Yeah. And I don't know. I just remembering like, oh, I think I heard that question before. But see, for me, enthusiasm. Seeing my friends definitely is one of those. Like I think I'm most energetic when I'm with a friend. That like feeding off of that energy, and if we're just having a good time. Definitely that, because like usually I'm more like reserved and I have to like force it on camera. So definitely that. And then as far as being enthusiastic, if I'm like excited about something, I will like jump around. Like I do get pretty excited about certain like events, maybe like if I'm going to a show that I'm excited about, or like a movie I want to watch, or whatever it may be. Like if I'm excited about something. Okay, so the question was what? So what specifically? So yeah, I guess if I'm excited about an event or something I'm going to, there's that. And also like a lot of horror things, like we're going back to that. I am very enthusiastic about horror. So I watch like horror movies. I love like No Sleep. I don't know if any of you read that. I'm not a Reddit user or anything, but if I go on Reddit, it's literally strictly just No Sleep where I read like creepy stories. So yeah, I guess you could say I get enthusiastic about horror. Oh, and throwing a theme party. It's so funny because I don't really party, but I like hosting parties strictly because I like to create themes. Like I like doing like themed party planning. So, but when the actual party starts, I'm not as enthusiastic about it.
That's really funny because
Yeah.
anybody that knows me in real life knows that I throw themed parties as well, or I like prefer that.
Oh.
And I don't know if you've watched any videos where I've talked about this, but I love throwing parties. I like parties when I throw them, and like I can control certain things
Yes.
like about it, especially if it's at my place, because I can just retreat to my bedroom, and oftentimes I would retreat and just have the cats in my bedroom with me.
The same way.
But yeah, I love theme parties, and I think it's so fun.
Mm-hmm. I'm like the same way about being able to control the situation, still be in my element when it's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So another person that's been giving some really good questions is James Bentley. He said, how do you guys look at the passage of time? Has your perspective on this changed as you've gotten older? Does having more awareness of time and its passing give you a sense of urgency, or does it discourage?
Having it like passing of time, sense of urgency or discourage. Okay, I got it. Passing time. It honestly, it does. It is kind of scary. I'm not gonna lie. Like it does get kind of scary sometimes when I realize that, oh shit, I'm getting older. It's like, and there's nothing I can do to stop it. And I don't know at what point I'm gonna do what I want to do. I mean, I'm pretty happy. Like I'm content with where I am now, but like there's still always more that I want to experience and more I want to learn and do and stuff. So there is that little bit of anxiety surrounding that. But I still have to, like, when you're approaching 30, that's when because you're still pretty young. You're 25. You're a quarter in. Well, I guess that's technically like if we're going to be 100. But anyway, well, I can't know 50. I can't do math. I can't do math under pressure. That's one thing. So sorry if I sound pretty. Okay, so for me, I'm 29. I'm going to be 30 next year. So it's like, oh my gosh, that's like the big number, right? That's like big 3-0. So there is a little bit of pressure in that, but I think that's more of a societal pressure that's kind of like, that's been created surrounding the number 30. So I try not to focus on that because in the grand scheme of things, I'm still a baby. Like if I look at people who have so much wisdom, who are like 50, 40, 50, 60, you know, I still have so much time to get to that point. And when I remember that, then I can relax a bit.
Yeah, and I think kind of going off of like the pressure of like the big 3-0 turning 30, like you said, a lot of those things just aren't relevant anymore because of how society has changed,
Right.
and things are not as easy as they used to be. Like, for example, buying a house.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
That's true. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, even at 25, so I've already had like a quarter life crisis. I had it like in my early 20s. And yeah, I think I actually do think about the passage of time pretty often, actually. And something that I've kind of put pressure on myself, and I've learned to just like not. I'm learning to not think this way, but like in my mind, I guess like I always thought that I would like be married, I would have children, like all this stuff, like I would have these things earlier in life. And I'm realizing that especially with like finding the right person and all of those things, some of that stuff takes time and you can't just rush into it. Like I'm glad, like when I was younger, I used to think that I was going to be married at 18, and I'm so glad that I wasn't, because yeah, I would be a completely different person and I wouldn't have experienced those things. But it's still that pressure of like wanting those things, but like fighting the fact that like, I still have time. I don't need to do those things right now, because there's a part of me that like wants to be married and have children right now. But there's also a part of me that realizes that I really want to experience some more things before that happens.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of my biggest pressure that I put on myself.
That makes sense. Like especially how the pressure that people put on women, and like, oh, you're running out of time. It's only so long. You only have so much time to have a kid. So for me, when I was 20, I thought I was going to be 23 was like the cap I put on myself when I was was like 15. I was really young. And I didn't know anything. So 23, like, how could I even, 23, I was still like, I don't know. I can't even imagine like getting married at that age or younger than that. That's insane to me. There was still a lot of maturity. Like, I do believe I was mature, but there was certainly more that I needed to experience before learning how to take care of a kid. Not that it's not possible. I know of people who've had kids when they were 18 and they're amazing parents. So I guess for my personal journey, like I still had like a little bit of time before that happened. Well, I'm 29 now, but like now a lot of people, like friends of mine, of people I know, just peers and stuff, a lot of them aren't even planning on getting married until they're 35, which to me is like it just shows how different the world is now. Or they're not planning on having a kid till they're like 35 because of how much technology has advanced, and they're like focusing more on like self development, like a personal development. They're focusing more on solidifying a career or traveling, and I think that's a good thing. And because if you kind of have to put that pressure on yourself and you end up having a kid just to fulfill that like time limit that you put on yourself, then then that's when you have issues like raising the child, or maybe you're not financially stable enough to do so, not everyone, but I feel like that happens when there's like, when you feel like you have to, because that's not an easy task to have a kid. That's like, you're raising another human being and you have to take care of this person. So that I have to remember that too. Like, if I'm going to have a kid, I want that kid to be fulfilled, in the best way possible. And I have to be in the right mindset in order to do that, or in the right like financial security and everything else that goes into having a kid.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, another added pressure that I put on myself is like, so I've talked about this on my channel. I don't know if this will actually happen in the future, but I've always wanted 7 kids. And it's like, because I put that number on myself, it's like a battle that I have in my mind. It's like, at one point, I really do want to have a large family, but by having that number, it's like, I realize that, especially as a woman, there is a biological clock that's ticking. It's hard, and memory stops. And yeah, I want to be able to support my family, and I feel like
I'm sorry, it's hard to get like to see like if you're talking because it's frozen. So I was like, sorry if I interrupted you. Okay, there, you're back. All right, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you if I did.
That's okay.
It's like a lag.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sorry. You were saying about you wanted 7 kids, so there's still that like.
Well, it's like this pressure that I put on my own self that I'm realizing isn't healthy. Like, because I just need to realize that if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and I need to not put that pressure on myself, or even like, my future husband, whether that's Frank or whoever that is. I'm hoping that it does end up like being Frank, but
Aww, I'm sorry. That's so. I've seen all his videos, so it's like, go get her, Frank.
Well, yeah, I mean,
so all your OkCupid stories, like, I'm like rooting for Frank. Now I'm rooting for you, both of you guys. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've talked about all this stuff like in depth. It's kind of, I mean, it is kind of crazy because we haven't been dating for that long, and it wouldn't be anytime soon. I think, well, we both are on the same page with that stuff, but it's crazy to think about that kind of thing. And yeah, I just need to stop putting like certain pressures on myself. So yeah.
Well, I'll say like whoever that child is, they're going to be loved and you're going to be crazy about them. So it's like, you're going to put your all into whoever that child or however many children that you are able to produce. Does that sound weird? Like,
yeah, no,
like
I mean, no,
whoever the child or those children are, you know, there's gonna be so much love for those kids that I feel like that's gonna be your number one priority, and that's like that's what I feel like. Like if I were have children for my future and stuff, like at that point, because my number was 3, which is not as crazy as like not saying that's crazy. Sorry, wrong choice of words there.
No. I know that it is like out of the norm.
Well, that's just like crazy for me. Like I can imagine being able to do that. That's more power to you if you can. But 3 was like a big number to some people. For me, but I don't know why 3 was always the number I could see in my head. But if I don't, even if it's just one child, like just all that love I give for that kid, like that's what matters.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And I think that applies. There's so many people that I feel like will make great parents, and not everybody wants to have children, and I respect that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is kind of, as I guess, like the question was about time, and that's my main thing that I like foil with is those aspects. It's like I'm not trying to have those things complete me, but it's something that I've always wanted in my life, and I just have to like chill and not wonder about that stuff as much.
I think once you get to a point where you're ready to have children and when you are actually going to go through with it, I mean, I can't say this for sure, but I have a feeling that those feelings will kind of dissipate as you see this child grow and how amazing like you're going to feel about having them, about having whoever he or she is and however many that is that you end up having. Like, and I think that that number won't matter anymore because like that number is not as important as that one kid that you have, that one human being that you have, like that you've created. That makes sense?
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think you're completely right, and that's something I actually have thought about. And yeah, so I guess kind of getting off of that topic because
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about a lot of stuff so far, and it's partly me kind of paranoid because I'm afraid that my mom is going to come back.
Oh, yeah, no problem whatsoever.
But I guess kind of to wrap this up a little bit, is there anything kind of you want to talk about or something that
I guess if you guys feel like you want to say something like whether on a smaller scale or a bigger scale like YouTube for the world to see or like just to your friends or family or your community or whatever, I don't think if you feel passionate about it enough or you feel like it's going to change the world or make some kind of positive impact and it means a lot to you, I think you shouldn't don't like let your fear hold you back or your being like camera shy. For example, like I end up like, first of all, there's always the power of editing if you're going to do YouTube videos. But even if like you're in a public space and you're just going to talk, like here, there have been moments during this talk video that I felt like, oh, I'm choking up my words. I probably sound like really incoherent right now. But the message that you're going to give, you have to remember is more important than that moment that you end up babbling or something, like, you know, or maybe you used the wrong word in the wrong way. The message is way more important than that. And so don't be afraid to speak up if you feel like it can change something.
No, I think that's exactly right.
That should be all from me.
It's been a pleasure having you, and I would love to talk with you like anytime.
Absolutely.
Anytime we're both free, that would be amazing. Just say like not recorded. I mean, like so for people, obviously you guys don't know this, but like we were talking for a good amount of time before this interview even started. And yeah, it's I like doing these kind of things, and I think my mom's home, so
yeah, perfect timing then.
But yeah, have a great day, guys, and
thank you for listening. Thank you for having me.
Well, and subscribe to Samantha's channel. Again, it's in the link in the description.
Yeah. I would really appreciate it if you did, but obviously, like, whatever you feel. Yeah, I mean, I hope to do more. So, okay, well, I'll let you go. Thank you again. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it, really.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye.